Hey there, friends. Got a few questions for you before we roll into the video. Let me ask you this. If you want a suntan, where do you go? The beach, right? You want to get away with child trafficking, where do you go? Epstein Island. Where else? If you want to be shot or mugged or robbed, where do you go? You got it. Chicago. First, guys, go check out my friends Attorneys on Retainer. These guys are not an insurance company. You've heard all the old news about the insurance companies, and some have changed their policies because they've got called out on stuff. Why bother going with somebody who has to tweak their policy to make people happy? Go with an actual attorney firm who's already making people happy. These guys at Attorneys on Retainer, they're who I have. They're who I trust my livelihood and my future to, knowing that if I'm carrying a firearm and I unfortunately have to end up using it, I'm protected by an attorney, not an intern on a telephone trying to determine what person they need to pass you through on a switchboard who's going to determine if they're going to cover you anyway. Sign up now, my friends, Attorneys on Retainer, for optimum protection in the unlikely event you have to draw your carry firearm in self-defense. Use my code FTATF and receive $50 off your individual sign-up fee. Again, use my code FTATF and receive $50 off your individual sign-up fee. Although all the signs are there and everybody knows that Chicago is a place that you don't go if you're trying to escape crime, being shot, being mugged, some people just don't listen. Here's a little setup by the New York Post regarding some stuff you may not have heard about that happened at the DNC. Headline: Texas Democratic delegate robbed at gunpoint near DNC in Chicago. A member of the Texas Democrat delegation was reportedly robbed at gunpoint in downtown Chicago after the national convention early Wednesday. This delegate was walking with a friend around 2 a.m. when he was targeted by a gunman wearing a ski mask. Before confronting the pair, the gunman had pulled up across the street in a black Range Rover and robbed a 25-year-old man of his wallet and hotel room key. So this guy had already robbed somebody across the street and he's driving a Range Rover. Either that's the fruits of his labor or that's the fruits of his labor. So this delegate is in Chicago. This delegate witnesses somebody literally right across the street being robbed at gunpoint. Then they get robbed and they're surprised. Again, if you want to get a suntan, you go to the beach. Do these people not read the headlines? Do they know that these people who put these headlines out in the media are all on their side? Do they not believe them? Are they that wrapped up in the whole gun control thing where they think the headlines are contrived just to push gun control? Or do they actually believe these people are really being shot, robbed, and mugged in Chicago? Because I don't need a travel agent to explain to me the dangers of Chicago. These things, I think a 7-year-old would know, I'm not going to Chicago, liable to get shot or mugged. The thief then allegedly dashed across the street and demanded property from this pair of people. After robbing the man and woman, the offender then got back into the SUV, the Range Rover, and sped off. No injuries were reported. The most comical part of this story was the fear of offending somebody by giving an accurate description of the thief. Police on Thursday were looking for the robber and the alleged getaway driver, who were described as two men between 5'7" and 5'9" tall. You would have been just as safe to say two men or even two people. I'm surprised they actually named that these were men, because remember, this is a Democrat-run city and this is the DNC, and it's a Democrat-run publication that puts these stories out. So the only thing that was not off limits was the fact that they could rightfully call him a man. Of course, men are bad right now, right? If this would have been a woman, they might not have named that. But the height was the only thing. What about the height disenfranchised people out there? What about the height challenged people? What about a 5'7" man? Maybe the 5'7" men ought to be coming out right now and going, this is not fair. This is not fair at all, because you are now picking on 5'7" men, and my feelings are hurt because I'm a short man. I am a height challenged man. I don't believe that. I'm just being sarcastic. I don't have a problem with height or whatever. But nevertheless, that's the thing they were comfortable reporting on, the height. Not what he's wearing, not what might normally be a little helpful, which is skin color, right? That might be a little helpful, although they're in Chicago. It's not like they don't know. But let me help you, because this slide is going to be really inconvenient for the people who were so scared to give an accurate description about these two gunmen and robbers. Yeah, that's right. 77.8% of the criminals in Chicago are black, as Trump likes to say, and 19.2% are Hispanic. 3% are white or other. So if we're looking at odds, it's a 97% chance that you probably could have put what the skin color was of these two fine young gentlemen and been pretty accurate. You had a 97% chance of getting that right just by throwing a dart at a dartboard. So did these people not know, coming from Texas, that Chicago had a seedy past about it? Did these people not somehow realize that they were walking into the belly of the beast when it comes to shootings, muggings, robbings, stabbings, whichever? Did they not know that? Because it didn't take me very long, like a really quick Google search, and the front page was full of what to expect when you go to Chicago. Chicago earns disturbing title of America's murder capital as DNC kicks off in the dim-led Windy City. Chicago led nation in homicides for 12th year in a row in 2023. Murder rate still 5 times higher than New York City's. Another slide, Chicago, nation's homicide capital for 12 straight years. Look at these numbers. Chicago leading the pack by far ahead of New York and Los Angeles, who are a good bit below that, actually. I mean, looking at Los Angeles, surprisingly, was probably 50% or less in most years compared to what Chicago is bringing to the table. So these dummies go up in there and roll around. Remember, we talk all the time about times of day? 2 a.m. They're out probably going to some kind of little bathhouse that Chicago is known for. Barack Obama likes to frequent those too. So maybe they're going for a little action, if you know what I mean. 2 a.m. in the morning. 2 a.m. 2 a.m. Stupid things happen then. What did you expect? Did you expect somebody to come up to you and offer to shine your shoes? Because that's not happening at 2 a.m. in the morning. Plus, I wonder if you ever noticed all the security that these delegates walked through to get into the DNC. Did they happen to notice that even though, according to Democrats, walls don't work, that somehow or another you were walking through 2 and 3 layers of walls and fencing to get inside a, quote, safe zone within the DNC? So apparently, walls don't work at our border, but they do work in a city that leads the nation in homicides. So really hard for me to feel sorry for these idiots down in Texas for rolling up into Chicago and either being oblivious to the actual facts of the danger of this silly little place that they decided to have this convention in, or these people are just blatant idiots and they are totally ignoring everything that is put in front of them to make decent decisions. In any case, you know what's going to happen, right? I know you know what's going to happen. These 2 delegates, will go back to Texas now, and they will be the champions of gun control. They're going to use this. Watch. You know I'm right. Both of these people will likely be, more than likely, city council next. They'll move into some other role, maybe state congressperson or state senator, Then they'll want to go at the federal level. But make no mistake about it, they're going to capitalize on this, and I expect them to. But now they're going to be champions of gun control because they've experienced it firsthand. Oh my God, my life flashed before my eyes. These are the same people that will, no doubt, and they're not giving their names, so I can't give you any proof of this, but we know, right? I mean, they're in lockstep with one another. We know they voted against probably the constitutional carry law that's currently in place in Texas. We know they voted probably against all kinds of other gun rights bills and probably for all the gun control bills in the state of Texas. Yet these same people will roll up into Chicago oblivious and stupid to all the facts of the world in this dangerous city they're in. Have human beings who made the choice to rob them. They just happen to be using guns. They could have been using knives and been just as effective, right? So these people are now, because Chicago won't let them carry, they are a target. You know where you're not going to see these same delegates get robbed at 2 a.m.? I can tell you where. In cities who are red cities. That's not going to happen. In cities that are kind and friendly to people who carry firearms for their own personal safety and the safety of their families and others. Because criminals know Chicago is a kill zone. Chicago is fine. We're not going to get shot at unless it's one of our homies shooting at us. The only way that these criminals getting out of a Range Rover to rob somebody with a gun were in any real danger from another gun was if one of their homeboys down the road decided they wanted to rob those same people and they fought it out to see who was going to get to rob them. Because the victims are never going to be armed over there. And I say never, I should not generalize like that. Rarely going to be armed in Chicago. So they're playing the odds. These criminals know that we are very unlikely to get shot at by anybody that we're abusing or we're attacking. And they were right. I mean, they were. Let's face it, guys. They knew that they had a bundle of idiotic, stupid, gun control Democrats rolling into the city. Target-rich environment. We got people who are anti-gun, so we know they're not going to have guns. We have guns. They got stuff we want. Let's go get it. I guarantee you there are a lot more stories similar to this that you just haven't heard about, but it certainly happened. Because again, when you know that you have that, that's like a wolf knowing that a bunch of sheep are coming into the valley. You know, he's licking his chops. Here we go. Gonna have a full belly tonight. That's what these people were thinking, these criminals in Chicago. This doesn't happen in red-run cities. This doesn't happen in gun-friendly areas. This doesn't happen in areas that do not discriminate against people who want to carry firearms for their own safety. So criminals clearly, once again, are outsmarting the, quote, victims in this case. Do I feel like these people deserve to be robbed? You know what? Nobody was hurt. Good for them. That's good for them. It's karma. You have voted against people like me who want to just protect myself. Remember, I'm not a criminal. And none of the people you have voted against for gun rights, these two people in this case, the delegates, were going to do anybody harm. I mean, if you think about it, most of the people that these politicians seek to disarm, they're not criminals. Because the criminals are already armed no matter what, right? So, if this is a taste of karma, good. I approve. I'm okay with it. Did I chuckle a little bit when I heard about this story?
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.